So we start our physics lab course with a discussion on error analysis. Like any other measurements, we also come across errors while doing our measurements in physics lab. These errors lead to uncertainty in measurements and they come across due to many factors. To name a few is instrumental error, which may come across due to some defects in the instrument, personal error, which may come across due to lack of concentration of the observer, random errors whose conditions are not fixed and may vary from measurement to measurement. Random error is a type of error which is very difficult to control. Instrumental error can be controlled by correcting the instrument or taking value positive and negative and take a mean. Personal error can also be corrected by giving more attention to the measurements. But random errors, since the factors are not defined, the random errors is very difficult to control random errors. As such, there is a way suggested to reduce the effect of random errors. That is, we take n number of readings and then find an average of it. That average value of n number of readings, where n to be very large, will be very close to the true value. So, like the ones shown here, this value is an outcome of an average coming out for n number of measurements done for the variable v. The advantage is that you can have an idea that your measured reading will be within what limit. So like in this case, it will be within plus minus 0.13. You are measuring the volume of an object and it will come across 45.25 within plus minus 0.13. That you can do if you take a number of readings and find an average value. So in order to, we will discuss some measuring devices and we'll try to find out the uncertainty in the measurement. Uncertainty in measurement can be determined in many ways. One way is this, in finding out the spread in the final value. The second is percentage error or fractional errors. Percentage errors are normally determined in the case where standard value of any particular parameter is given. We find the deviation of the measured value from the standard value, take a fraction by dividing it with the true value or the standard value. That is the fractional error, and if you multiply it with 100, we will get the percentage error. This is what we are going to find out, and this is the uncertainty in average measurement. x1, x2, x3 are individual values up to xn, and x bar is the value, is the mean value by finding out the average of x1, x2, x3 up to xn. We divide it by n, we can find the uncertainty in the averaged measurement. This sigma m is nothing but equal to standard deviation by root n. That is the spread in the average value, average measured value. If your particular parameter involves measurement of two or more parameters, then you can add your uncertainty or deviation, you can subtract your deviation, you can multiply, divide your deviation, but in case of multiplication and division, you always choose fractional errors, while in case of addition and subtraction, you always use absolute errors. Then in case of powers, you simply multiply the power with the fractional error of the variable. So this is the chart where you can see the relation if your measured parameter is involved two measurable terms a and b, and if they are come up by adding a and b, then you get deviation in z as a factor of square of deviation of z as a factor of square of deviation in a plus square of deviation in b. Same in case of a minus b, with a plus a into b and a by b we choose fractional errors, and so on and so forth. What is more important here, which we want to discuss, is this is particular chart which we want to discuss. These are the number of measurements we have in this particular example. We have shown a table for position measurements, and these are the position measurements which have been made. There are 21 such measurements being made, and we take a mean value of this. So this x bar is found, we determined is, we sum all the values, divided by total number of readings, and we get a mean value. We divide each reading, we subtract each reading with the mean value, we get a value, we square it, and then we find the root mean square. That is nothing but the standard deviation in the reading. When we divide it again by root n, we will find the spread in the mean value of that, in the average value of that particular parameter, and that is what is to be determined if the standard value of any particular parameter is not given. If the standard value of that particular parameter is given, then we normally find percentage error or fractional deviation from the standard value. We will now discuss some of the measuring instruments, and I'll demonstrate some of the measuring devices which you can use to actually perform an error analysis experiment to understand how an error comes while we doing n number of measurements, and how by doing n number of measurements we can come up to a value very close to the true value of that particular parameter. At the same time, we get a feel how the measured value or the measured value is within what limit. Hello students, today we are going to discuss about error analysis in measurements. For that we will discuss few simple measuring devices, and we will do a number of measurements of the same parameter and try to find out the mean and standard deviation from the readings. The first instrument which we are going to introduce is a vernier caliper. This is a vernier caliper, and it is used to measure the outer diameter of a cylinder, the inner diameter of a cylinder, the depth of a cylinder, the thickness of some flat surfaces also. So as you can see, this particular vernier caliper has two scales. The bigger one is the main scale, and it has one jaw attached to it. The first jaw is attached to the main scale. The second jaw is connected to another scale which is called the vernier scale. We use these two jaws to measure the outer diameter of any cylinder, just like putting it here, something like this. Similarly, we use these two jaws to find the inner diameter, and we use this strip to determine the depth of the cylinder. Obviously, the thickness of flat surfaces can also be measured by putting it in between these two jaws. As you can see, when these two jaws are touching each other, the zero of the vernier scale coincides with the zero of the main scale. If they are not coinciding, then there will be some zero error in the instrument which you have to take care of while taking your readings. If the zero of the vernier scale stays before the zero of the main scale, then that value should be added to the value obtained by this vernier scale, and we call it as a positive zero error. If the zero of the main scale stands before the zero of the vernier scale, then that reading should be subtracted from the reading obtained by the vernier and is called the negative zero error. As you can see, the lower scale, the main scale has two scales. The upper graduations are in inches, whereas the lower graduations are in millimeter. So 1, 0, 1, between 0 and 1 centimeter you have 10 divisions. The smallest division is 1 mm. But in case of main scale divisions, you don't have any units attached to main scale divisions. What you can see is 10 main scale divisions coincides with 10 vernier scale divisions coincides with 9 main scale divisions. So that means 10 vernier scale division is equal to 0.9 centimeters. And from there you can find the vernier constant or the least count of this instrument. Least count of an instrument is the minimum reading which you can measure using this particular measuring device. So, and that you can obtain by subtracting the value of one vernier scale division from the value of one main scale division. We know the value of one main scale division is 1 mm, and what another information we are having is the value of 10 vernier scale divisions is equal to 9 mm or 0.9 centimeters, which means value of one vernier scale division will be 9 by 10 mm. Hence we subtract 1 mm by 9 by 10 mm and we get 1 by 10 mm, that is 0.1 mm. So this particular measuring device has more accuracy as compared to a meter scale, where you have a minimum division, or the minimum division which you can, minimum reading which you can measure using a vernier, using a main meter scale is 1 mm, while the minimum reading which you can measure using a vernier caliper is 0.1 mm. So in this experiment what you have to do is you have to find the outer diameter of this cylinder by putting it in between these two jaws. This is a ratchet. You have to press it so that it can freely move it. If you press it without, if you pull it without pressing it, it will not move. So the idea is you press this ratchet and move it. Put this cylinder between the jaws. Now the zero of the vernier scale, the reading just before the main scale reading, just before the zero of the vernier scale reading will be your main scale reading. In this particular case it is 1 mm, 1 centimeters. No, it is 0.9 centimeters. And you look for which vernier scale division is coinciding with the main scale division. You count that division. That is the vernier scale division. Obviously that vernier scale division will not have any unit. So you have to multiply it with the least count, that is 0.1 mm. For example, in this particular case, the one which is coinciding is the 7th one. You can see the 7th one is coinciding. So VSD will be 7. VSD multiplied by least count, that is the vernier scale reading, will be 0.7 mm. And here you get 9 mm main scale reading. So main scale reading plus vernier scale reading, that is 9.7 mm, will be the outer diameter of this cylinder. Once you determine this, you turn it at the same position by 90 degree and take the reading again. You repeat the process 10 to 20 times and then take the average of the reading and find the standard deviation. This is how you have to do measurement using a vernier caliper for the outer diameter of the cylinder. The same process you will do with the jaws meant to determine the inner diameter of the cylinder. Find these inner diameter at different positions with and without rotating by 90 degree, and then take almost 20 readings and take a mean and standard deviation. The third step is to find the another measuring instrument which we are going to discuss in this experiment is a screw gauge. A screw gauge is more precise, more accurate than a vernier caliper. It has a main scale and a circular scale which rides over the main scale. It has a U-shaped, again a jaw. This U-shaped jaw is connected to the main scale. You have 0 to 25 mm graduations, and between 0 to 5 mm you have 10 divisions, 5 below and 5 above the straight line which is parallel to the axis of this cylinder. We have a circular scale. In this particular case, we have 50 divisions on this circular scale. You can have variants of screw gauge where you have 100 divisions on this circular scale. So when you move it clockwise, this circular scale is attached to this inner rod. So as you rotate it clockwise, this inner rod moves in this direction. As you rotate anti-clockwise, it moves away from it. This particular measuring device is used to measure the thickness, diameter of very thin or fine wires. Since they already have a very low thickness, so an accuracy limit to a higher degree is desired in the measurement of the thickness or the diameter of such materials. As such, screw gauge is being used to determine the diameter or the width of such surfaces. For example, if you want to measure the diameter of this thin tube, we will use a screw gauge rather than a vernier caliper, because if you compare the two samples, this is a thicker one, so an accuracy limit to a lower degree can work well in determining the diameter of this particular cylinder. But in this case, say for example, if it has an accuracy of 0.1 centimeters or 0.1 millimeters, it will work. has a diameter of, let's say, around 3 to 4 mm, and will have an accuracy of 0.1 mm, it will work. But here it already has a thickness or outer diameter of roughly around 1 mm or 2 mm, and in that you have if you have a error of 0.1 mm, then that error is quite large. So you need a better accuracy, and as such you need a better instrument, a more accurate instrument to determine the accuracy of thinner samples. How can we measure the thickness or the diameter? We just put it between these two rods and we press it, we rotate it so that it can be held in between these two rods. This is a ratchet provided to ensure that the sample doesn't get over tightened. Okay, and then what we do is we will record the reading, the main scale reading just before, or the main scale reading on the main scale, and the reading of the circular scale which is coinciding with this straight line. We determine the same, or we repeat the same process 20 times for different positions, at different positions, and from there we can determine the diameter of this thinner tube. The least count of this, that is the minimum reading which can be taken using, or which can be measured using this screw gauge, can be determined by first finding the pitch of this measuring device. Pitch is the main scale division moved for one complete rotation of the circular scale. In order to find the pitch, what we do is we start from 0 value and we rotate it anti-clockwise 20 times. We give 20 rotations and we record how much of the main scale it has moved out. We divide that main scale value with 20, and the value what we get is the pitch. The least count of this measuring device is pitch divided by total number of circular scale divisions. In this case, the pitch of this screw gauge is 0.5 mm, and we divide it by 50 because it has 50 divisions. So 0.5 by 50 will be 0.1 by 10, that is 0.01 mm, and thus you see it has one order less, or it is more accurate by an order as compared to vernier scale. You can take readings up to 2 place of decimals. So in this, using this measuring device also, you have to find out the outer diameter of a tube or the thickness of a wire, of a paper, whatever, at 20 different positions. Take an average, find the mean and the standard deviation. The third measuring device in this series is a spherometer. A spherometer has the same pattern of scales as we have in case of screw gauge, except with a different architecture. The architecture of a spherometer is meant to find the thickness, curvature or depth of surfaces. It has 4 legs. 3 of them, the corner 3 of them are fixed and has a central movable leg. If you join it with straight line, you will find the corner legs forms an equilateral triangle, and the distance between the central leg with any of the fixed leg is L by root 3, where L is the distance between any two legs. The central leg is attached to a circular scale. In this case has 100 divisions, circular scale divisions. If you remember, in case of screw gauge we had 50 circular scale divisions. We can have variants where we have only 50 divisions on the circular scale of this spherometer also. We have a main scale division. The difference between the main scale division of a spherometer and a screw gauge is, here we can go both ways, positive as well as negative. So we have readings from 0 to 10 mm, and then we have readings from 0 to again 10. So what we can do here on the other side, using this we can again find the least count in the same way as we did in case of screw gauge. What we do is we rotate it 20 times and see how much main scale reading it has rise up or gone down. Record that reading, divide it by 20, we'll get the pitch of the scale, and divide that pitch with 100 division, we'll get the least count of this scale, this spherometer. If we have a curved surface like a convex mirror or a plano-convex lens, then we straight away put this onto the surface and we lift it, the central leg, and then allow the central leg to touch the plano-convex surface. You can record that reading, the circular scale reading coinciding with the main scale reading. That will be the main scale reading, and the value of the circular scale reading which it is coinciding is the value of the main scale reading. And then you remove that plano-convex surface, put a flat surface, and then bring it down the central leg so that the central leg now touches the flat surface, and then record the reading again. You subtract the final reading from initial reading, you can find the radius of, and with some calculations you can find the radius of curvature of the particular plano-convex lens. You can also find the thickness of a glass plate, but for that you need to put that glass plate just below the central leg and not below any of the three fixed legs. Obviously, the amount by which the central leg is lifted will be the thickness of that particular glass plate. Here zero error is not so important because normally measurements are being done as you subtract final reading from initial reading. So it is a differential. In all cases we do the same, but there the initial reading is the zero error. Here also you can consider that initial reading to be the zero value if it is not coinciding with the zero value. When all the four legs are touching a flat surface, this zero of the circular scale, if it is not coinciding with the zero of the main scale, if it is above the zero of the main scale, then the value should be subtracted and it's a negative zero error. And if in case of measuring the height of or the radius of a convex surface, but in that case if you are measuring the depth of the surface, that will act as a negative error because you have to add it up. So normally we do not consider the case of zero error using this spherometer. What we do is we either subtract the initial reading, the final reading, or the initial reading from the final reading, or we first fix it in its initial position, and then we count the number of rotations we gave. Since we know what is the pitch, so we count the number of rotations, and then we count the extra reading. The number of rotations will give an information of the main scale reading we climbed up or down, moved down, and the extra reading when multiplied with the least count will be added to the main scale reading, and hence we can find the thickness or depth or curvature of any surface. Precaution should be taken while taking the initial and final readings. In the initial readings, all 4 legs should be touching the flat surface, and in the final reading, only the central leg should touch the plate whose thickness is to be determined. So it might be possible that you overscrew the central leg, as a result of which 1 or 2 legs may lift up. So whether you have achieved or arrived to correct positions, that can be determined by taking a very fine piece of paper and allowing it to pass through all the legs, or you hold it firmly and then rotate it so that the central leg goes down. As the central leg touches the flat surface or the surface whose thickness is to be determined, whose curvature is to be determined, as the central leg touches that surface, you will feel a friction, and when you feel a friction, you just stop. That means you have reached, the central leg has touched the surface, and that is why you are feeling the friction. These precautions has to be taken while using this spherometer, and then you can get a reading as good as a screw gauge. A spherometer has a least count which ranges from 0.05 to 0.01, and it varies from device to device. In this particular case, if you see, with one rotation you can move down by 1 mm. So 100 division you goes down by 1 mm. So the pitch is 1 mm, you divide it by 100, so the least count of this spherometer is 0.01. And you use this particular spherometer for this particular experiment to find the thickness of a glass plate. Again, you take readings 20 times, find the average, get the mean and the standard deviation. The idea behind using different type of measuring instruments, in all the cases you will find that while taking n number of readings, the readings are not coming same. Even if your surface, your sample is ideal or very close to ideal, has exact value, you will never get the exact value while using any of these measuring devices. This is because you will come across many errors, maybe some sort of deformations in the sample itself, but there are errors other than that which we call as random errors or personal errors also. When we take mean of a number of readings, the effect of most of the errors gets nullified, especially the random errors. And the standard deviation will give you an idea that how much spread in a reading can be possible using that particular measuring device. This is what you have to learn in this particular experiment. So we had discussed now that in this particular experiment you have to use 3 devices, measuring devices. One is your spherometer, the other one is your screw gauge, and the third one is your vernier caliper. Using the vernier caliper, you have to find the outer diameter, the inner diameter and the depth of this cylinder. Using the screw gauge, you have to find the outer diameter of this thin tube, and using the spherometer you have to find the thickness of a flat surface, let's say this glass plate. Thank you.